Hello, today's video is going to be part of a series of videos that will be broken into 4 parts. And what the series is that I'm ranking every talisman in the game. Problem being is that there are 80 talismans and this might take quite a while to record and edit these videos, therefore I'm going to be breaking it up into 4 parts, and then when it's all done I will be slapping it all together for the final video. Now this video will be the bottom 20 talismans. These will be the worst talismans. This will be going from 80 to 61. Please feel free to let me know if you do enjoy this type of content or not. The feedback is much appreciated. And now, onto the video. And at number 80 we have Dadekar's Woe, which I believe is the only talisman in the game with strictly a negative effect. All this talisman does is it doubles damage taken by the player. This is by design and it's supposed to make the game more difficult. And unlike the Sword Seals and the Scorpion Charms, this does not provide any positive effect. And at number 79 we have Crepice's Vial, which has the effect to eliminate all sound made by the wearer during movement. Apparently this helps you sneak up on enemies in the open world, but even if it does, it's definitely not a vital mechanic in Elden Ring and is not going to help you fight any bosses. I mean, you could try to sneak up on people since it does say it eliminates all sound, as I'm assuming that's all audio that you do make. So maybe if you really wanted to put this to use, you can try to do some invades and try to sneak up on people. But considering it's a very open world, you'll have to do this in very specific areas to make the Crepice's Vial do anything, since they'll most likely see you anyways. But yeah, stealth isn't very important and there are better talismans you can use to sneak up on people in invasions. And at number 78 we have the Crucible not Talisman, which reduces the damage of headshots. It also reduces the hit stun of headshots. Now a headshot is when you get hit in the head with a projectile, namely a crossbow bolt or arrow from a bow. Now this may also include projectiles from certain spells, but even if it does, it is dog water. It's trash. Next talisman. And at number 77 we have the Longtail Cat Talisman, which grants immunity to fall damage but does not prevent death from a high fall. Now I remember people getting tricked by its item description because it used to say something like renders the wearer immune to fall damage, which was a bit misleading as it led people to just jump off cliffs and die, thinking they would be completely safe because it said they would be immune to fall damage. Now all the Longtail Cat Talisman does is prevent you from taking damage anywhere before the 20-meter mark, where normally I believe you'd start taking full damage about at the 16-meter mark, and this would prevent that. Now why this talisman is ranked so low is no secret. As far as I know, this is useless in any boss battles, is probably not going to help you in PvP, and would only prevent you from taking damage that you should have probably avoided taking otherwise, or you could just heal it off. But I could see why you might swap to this talisman real quick before taking some fall damage, in which case it is not really the worst talisman, but it's very far from the best. Now on to number 76, which is the Sacrificial Twig, which prevents rune loss upon death, but itself will be sacrificed when you die. Multiple of these can be found. It is not like there is only one singular Sacrificial Twig in the world. And this is meant to be a safeguard against losing your runes, like maybe you could put it on before you enter a boss battle. However, its applications are not super helpful, as it grants no other benefit other than preventing the rune loss. Like say you die in the open world and lose your runes. Instead of using this talisman, you could just go pick them up and start where you left off. And if you're trying to use it before you enter a boss battle, instead of bringing the Sacrificial Twig, you could just go pick up your runes, and after that just quit out and you'll end up at the Fog Gate. Really all the Sacrificial Twig does is save you some time, maybe, and is really only recommended if you really have nothing else. Now at number 75 we have Shabriri's Woe, which has a bit of a misleading description. Now what it says is it constantly attracts enemies' aggression. Now it turns out this means nothing in PvE, at least not when you're alone. What this does is if you are playing multiplayer, and you are say fighting a boss with your friends, and you are wearing this talisman, the boss will prioritize you over the other players. Now this could be great if you're just trying to shield your teammates from the boss's attacks, but it's not guaranteed to help your host out, as all bosses seem to have giant AoE attacks nowadays. Personally, it doesn't seem too helpful, even for its one use in the game. And if you wanted to help your host be a boss, you could instead pick a real talisman instead. And at number 74 we have the Crucible Feather Talisman, which increases the effectiveness of dodge rolls but increases damage taken. Now by the effectiveness of dodge rolls, I believe it means it will add iframes. But the big problem is how much extra damage that you take. Apparently it's a 30% damage increase, which is quite a lot of damage for what, a few iframes? Now this talisman definitely could be higher depending on how many iframes it gives, but considering you just take so much extra damage, I can't really see it being much higher than this. And at number 73 we have the Ancestral Spirit's Horn, which will restore 3 FP for every enemy you kill. This is one of those talismans for helping you sustain throughout just exploring the world, and I would say that this is probably the worst one. And yeah, I really don't have too much to talk about this talisman. And at number 72 we have the Assassin's Cerulean Dagger, which is quite similar to the Ancestor Spirit's Horn. However, unlike the Spirit's Horn, this can be used in a multitude of boss battles. Now what the Assassin's Cerulean Dagger does is it will restore 15 FP per critical hit. Now it turns out you might get twice as much FP if you get a double critical hit, which is where if the crit animation damages them twice, but that's not really what this is about. I would place this over the Spirit's Horn because I believe boss battles are a more critical time compared to the open world. In the middle of a fight you can go ahead and crit a weakened boss, which can restore some FP, which can be nice I guess. It's just that the effect is pretty weak and that is why it is ranked as low as it is. Now for our 67 to 71 spots we will have the Horn Charms and the Mottled Necklace, which all have their +1 versions, and the Prince of Death's Sis. The Mottled Necklace +1, probably being one of the better ones, raises immunity, robustness, and focus by 60, which is the most total stat gain compared to all of them. The Prince of Death's Sis, raising vitality by 140. The Immunizing Horn Charm, increasing immunity by 140. The Stalwart Horn Charm, increasing robustness by 140. And the Clarifying Horn Charm, which increases focus by 140. Now these might be helpful if you're trying to counter a specific status effect, like say you enter a poison cave, so you take whatever stat would increase your poison immunity. It could be for a bunch of things like Scarlet Rot, Bleed, Death, etc. Honestly, these talismans are kinda meh, and I'm not really too sure how much better they are than some of the other spots before them, but I can be happy with where they are at the moment. Next up we have the Moon of Noxtella, which will increase your memory slots by 2, which might be more helpful in the earlier game, before you have too many spell slots. And honestly, that's all I have good to say about it. Honestly, since you get this about in the mid to late game, you should have a decent amount of memory slots by then. So it's not really the best thing ever, but obviously having more memory slots is not a bad thing. And at number 65 we have the Taker's Cameo that heals 3% of max HP and a flat 30 HP every kill. Now this can be done with the Spirit's Horn as well, but if you watch a Bloodstain and wait until they die, you will also gain the benefit of the kill when they die in the Bloodstain. You could effectively heal off by watching Bloodstains. Now the problem is this is just a bit of free sustain when roaming throughout the world and is not super necessary when you just have flasks. I do feel like there are better things, however, it is not the worst thing if this is all you have. Now at number 64 we have the Blue Feathered Branch Sword, which activates under 20% health, and when it activates it will actually reduce your damage negation by 50%, and then add a plus 50 bonus to your defense. And plus 50 is actually a lot. I'm not really too sure if you can get a lower damage negation after the branch sword is activated, but I'm pretty sure that you can't. So it will always be a benefit. And plus 50 is usually no joke, especially at lower levels. So if an attack doesn't just immediately kill you, this will proc and hopefully let you survive another attack. Now the problem is if you get hit for 50% and then by 50% again, this effect will never go off and it will be useless, being a dead talisman. Which is really why I don't like the branch swords, but I do see the red one being more useful for certain situations, which I will get to when I get to it. But yeah, very situational, although a pretty good buff, and will almost assure that you do survive another attack. And at number 63 we have the Crucible Scale Talisman, which reduces damage taken from critical hits by an amount. Yeah, I'm not really too sure if everyone really cares enough about these talismans to give out the actual values of their effects. Now the reason I put this above the Crucible Not Talisman is that critical hits are much more common than say headshots, despite neither really being common at all. If there's some lunatic out there with a parry shield for some reason, then you have the perfect thing to counter him. Maybe swap out one of your other talismans for this talisman and watch them tremble as you're still getting critically hit for a massive chunk of damage. But yeah, obviously the big problem is crits are not very common. People do not really parry anymore, as PvP is really just weapon art and spell spam galore, and taking critical hits from PvE creatures is not really too common. Although it is something niche that can be used, in that I will give it its value. Now at number 61 and 62 we have the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror and the Host Trick Mirror. The Furled Fingers Trick Mirror allowing you to take the appearance of a host, and the Host Trick Mirror allowing you to take the appearance of a cooperator. Now the niche of these talismans are very interesting. The idea behind these talismans is to trick enemy invaders into focusing the wrong person, and hopefully that will allow the host to survive. There's one issue with this, however, and that being that the invader is literally told the name of the host as soon as they join the session. So if they just remember the names, this could end up just being useless. I would consider the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror to be better than the Host Trick Mirror, because it also has another niche of actually making you look like a host, which actually doesn't make you like glow at all. And this can also be used by invaders in order to sneak in and sneak up on the host without showing off your blinding red light. And yeah, I think they add a fun gameplay element to the game, so they will be taking the 61 and 62 spots. And that'll be it for the bottom 20. Now the reason that I'm making this a 4-part series instead of turning it into a single video is because making this single video might take up to like 2 months of time, so I won't really have content on the channel for up to 2 months maybe. Well, this way I can get content on the channel, so there's something to enjoy while I'm working on the video. But yeah, that'll be it for me. See ya, baby!